at Rezzed. It's always felt like there was a hole at the show where they should be, so I'm so pleased to have them here. And right now we have Karoliina, the lead designer of City Skylines from Colossal Order. So if you welcome her to the stage. Now, we're going to talk about the development of the game. We're going to talk about all the great community stuff. We're going to talk about who Colossal Order are. But first of all, we're going to talk about the new expansion, Mass Transit. So first of all, why are you putting more vehicles in? What does it give to the game? And how empty have these cities been without them?
Well, let me start with we are putting more vehicles in, but they are not on the roads. So this means that even if you have traffic jams, it is not a problem. It doesn't have to be, it can be. But we're doing things like the elevated monorail that can be also put on top of roads. And those are kind of, it's a special road type, but you can upgrade to it so that you don't have to demolish roads you have to get these ones. Then we have the cable cars. Not the San Francisco models, but actually like going on cables hanging from them. And those are so cute. And blimps and ferries. So basically we are giving the players the option to like take control of the water and the air. So things that previously you could have the planes and the passenger and the cargo ships, but there wasn't that much control. So what we only wanted now is that the player has control. Right. They can do
so you
what
give them
they want.
New levels to play on.
Yeah.
You mentioned cable cars being cute, and one of the things, people who've played City Skylines, I think there's two broad categories of people who play it. People who want to make really beautiful cities, and people who want to make really efficient cities. I make neither. I make really atrocious, ugly cities where everyone shouts at me.
Too.
I mean, that is fun, yeah. It's not intentional. It's not like I do this on purpose. But it's, I think, for natural disasters, which was the previous expansion, let you wreck your cities, or which is something that a lot of people wanted to do. People like building things and then knocking them back down again, right? But this one feels like it's much more about allowing more efficiency. But then also, you can also make beautiful things with this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and while it might sound like the blimps and the cable cars, they're just like funny additions, they are actually pretty efficient.
Okay.
So that you can really, especially for the cable cars, because if you have like a city on a mountain, like big height differences, the roads won't go in that angle, but the cable cars can. So that you actually can use them in these kind of situations really efficiently. And then you can also have like on level ground lines if you want that, and they also do fine, because like not having to depend on the traffic on the roads, it is really beneficial.
And when you decided that you wanted to do mass transit, I mean, at what point did you think this is something we want to do? I'm guessing you've always wanted to do it. I mean,
yes.
So if people don't know, Colossal Order before City Skylines made two games, Cities in Motion 2, which were transit games. And so in a way, this is bringing back your experience from there, your knowledge from that. But yeah, why is this the next thing? Why does it feel important to do?
Well, mainly we want to because we know that a lot of players have been playing for a long time. And more control is something that we want to add to the game. So just like new areas that you can then utilize. And this also, of course, for the existing cities. So if you have your favorite city, it probably has some water because you need some. So now you can use it more efficiently. So kind of adding on to existing stuff and making it more interesting.
Yeah, because there's a point, I think, with this style of game where you feel like you've built the best city you can, and you're like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Oh, you drop a meteor on it is what you do. But then, you go back in and you can tinker with it and change it. But what does the experience... Well, actually, let's go right back to the origins of City Skylines, because city builders were dying or dead. I mean, this is a genre which goes back to the very beginning of gaming, like the original SimCity. The 80s, was it? I think it was the 80s. I'm so old. And it went away a little bit. And I think that everyone was always hoping there'd be another great city builder, and I think this one is, So, but you'd wanted to make it for a long time, right?
Yeah, like back in 2009, when the company was founded, we were like, what is a game that we are excited about and that could be done with a small team? And we instantly went for simulation because creating a working sandbox is like, with a tiny team, that is what you can do really well. And then it creates endless possibilities for gameplay. Unlike like if you have a really cinematic game, you have the whole thing planned out, and that's as much of the content as you get. If you have a sandbox, then you can just play and play and play. So, but we did recognize that with a completely new team, we didn't know each other so well yet. Doing a whole city simulation game would be like an insanely huge task. And we wanted to kind of do something smaller first, but kind of still aim towards that city builder that we were dreaming about. So public transportation.
Were you brought together by a love of public transportation?
Well, it kind of, yeah.
Actually, the first time I met you, this was maybe 6 years ago, and I was like, I'm going to do an interview with a group of Finnish designers who've made a game about public transportation. And I thought, where do you go? What do you ask? And the first question I asked was, do you love public transport? And they all said yes. And I was like, okay, that's great. I mean, it's a strange thing to have a passion for, but I think that you get an understanding of how cities work for it. That was.
And like simulating traffic is of course really important for public transport, because if the traffic would not be a challenge, if it would work really unrealistically, it would both be that if it is not challenging, there is nothing to play. You can make your lines, but you don't really change anything. And if it is unrealistic, the results the player gets from doing an action would be weird. You wouldn't know what's going on, and kind of this familiarity and understanding what the consequences are really something that we want to have.
And did you study real design, like, I mean, the actual design of cities and how they work, or is it very gamified?
Very gamified.
Okay.
We decided, we made a decision that we will not look at actual urban planning.
Okay.
And we will look at games about this and kind of skip the step.
So I haven't learned how to actually run a city at all.
Yeah, just because so many games do it so well. So looking at those, I felt that we will learn much more than going to the roots and trying to get a game out of that and then refining it.
And you mentioned you wanting it to be a game rather than just a toy, because I think that, again, you go back to the original SimCity, and I remember it being described as it was more of a toy than a game, and I think that's something that's more common now. There are a lot of games that don't have challenges and objectives, so much. People are much more comfortable with the idea of just playing rather than trying to win, trying to beat the game. But was it important for you to make sure that it was challenging? Because you can mess up. I joked earlier about my cities being terrible. I'm actually really, they're fine. They're okay. Constant updates from my citizens. Yeah. They love me. But did you want it to be something that had challenge, or did you want it to be approachable and so that anybody could really pick it up and make something nice?
Yeah, well, we kind of had two target audiences. We decided this like really early on, that we want to have both the people who have played a lot of city building games, who know the SimCities, the Sierra city building series, and these people have been waiting for the next city builder for ages. So we want to get this audience. And then we also want to get new people who might not have played much of anything, but because a city as an idea is such an easy thing to approach. Like if you just grab someone from the street and ask like, well, what would you have in your dream city?
I do that all the time.
Yeah. And they have ideas like, I went to work and there was this road and I would do it differently. And people love it. And we want to have those people also playing the game and making it real. Is
it important then to make sure that the systems you put into the game allow people to, you don't want everyone to build the same city, right?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that there's not specific rules.
Yeah.
How do you do that as a designer? How do you make sure that the rules that drive the city don't make all the cities similar?
Well, I would say that the main thing is to do a lot of testing.
Right,
Because
right.
naturally, I know my type of player the best because I can imagine what I would do, and then I can go on trying to imagine what other players would do. But testing is the real thing when you actually get to see what people do with the game. And what I love to do is just watch people playing and then try to understand what they are doing and try to get that into the game. Because then if we can get more player types to enjoy the same game, we will have a wide audience, and that helps us to understand what kind of actions, what kind of things do people actually want to do
Right,
in
what
it.
they want, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like one of the most beautiful things about Skylines is that it is so adaptable. So you can play it like intensely for 5 hours, like constantly being managing things. Or some people like to play it so that they set up a city, then they go and watch a video on YouTube,
Right,
then they
right.
come back, and that works also. They will not have the most efficient cities, most likely, but it is an okay way to play. So it works for many types of players, and also the unlocking system that we have, I'm really proud of that. So basically what it does is that if you are an experienced player, you have played all the SimCities, you know what this is about. You get through like the first 4 milestones in like 15 minutes. But if you are a new player, you don't know how things work, you can take as long a time as you need to get through those.
Right, to move through the different
Yeah.
phases.
So the game system tries to make sure that you have understood how a system works before it gives you more systems to play with. And it seems to work quite well, and it makes players feel good because they are getting the kind of getting the progress they want in a time that is suitable for their needs.
And not feeling overwhelmed. I think that's important because there's so much going on.
Yeah. If we would unlock all of the stuff at once, it would be a chaos. Like for an experienced player, they can of course use the unlock all mods, but they have already learned the systems or they have the experience previously.
And mods is a good word to use because I mean one of the most important things I think about it, and it was something you were very, very keen to communicate to people, was that this is a game that you can do a lot with. I don't know if anyone here has ever built mods for it. We'll talk to the audience later, but what's the best thing you've seen people build? And also 2 questions actually. One is what are you most impressed by that people do build for it? And secondly, do some people sometimes build things in it and you think, I wish we'd done that?
All the time, yeah. And I think, well, it's wonderful to have a big community and so active players that really want to create stuff. And I think out of all of the things I've seen, my favorite must be the flight simulator, where you can actually control the planes. It's like, it's useless, but it's so much fun. Like, why wouldn't I do this? And then I love the garbage truck AI that has been improved because it's actually quite nice. And it helps the trucks get around easier and really helps with how the game runs.
You're doing in mass transit, so at the minute you can edit buildings, you can change buildings. Can you do vehicles?
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
but you can't change the people. The people are just built in, but with mass transit.
Actually, we just updated the citizen models,
okay.
so you can nowadays.
So you can actually mod them.
Yeah,
and you're not terrified by what's going to happen.
No, it's about creativity. Of course, you can have the kind of citizens you want.
Yeah. No, I mean it's great because I think that one of the things that you can do in the game is you can track people, and that's what I do. I mean, it goes to the part, people play games in different ways, and one of the things I like doing is just watching people walk around the city and go to work, and I'm very boring.
Yeah, well, I met one guy who had checked the SharePoint feed, and someone was complaining. So they clicked on the name because you can actually follow the citizens through there, found them and went to bulldoze their house.
Which is how you solve municipal problems.
Yeah. No more complaints. But talking about the mods, as we have a free update also coming at the same time as the mass transit, and that has mostly content that has been inspired by mods. We are actually crediting the modders, and most of that stuff is like information that the game already has, but made in a way that it's easier to understand. Like maybe for example, I could take the traffic routes info view, which allows you to actually click on a piece of road to see all of the trips made through that. And then you can even filter the results. So if you know that you have a lot of trucks going through and you want to know like why are they on this stretch of road, where are they coming from, where are they heading to, you can just click on it, filter the trucks, and because previously you had to click on the trucks, see where they're originating from, and actually like hop on the map to see where they are coming from. And now you can do all of that in the info view, and that is so much easier.
And the question that it's probably going to be the last question I asked before, and then we'll go to the audience. If anyone has questions, start thinking of them now. It's your countdown. But so much of the success of the game, I think, is down to the modding. I think that people love. It's a game about building, so it makes sense that you can build your own things to put in it. I think that makes perfect sense. But also being able to share things online. And it strikes me as a game that is very much of its time because of that. Like, I mean, it's so much of it exists because of things like Steam Workshop. You know, everyone is enabled to share things with each other, and it's not very nice to make something amazing and then you can't let anyone look at it. So, I mean, how important do you think that aspect is?
Well, I love the community, and sharing and creating is the basis of this whole game. So I think that people do like seeing what others are doing with their stuff, and I know that at least because we are creating lots of tools to allow people to modify the game.
Right.
And I'm always amazed.
And is that something that when you're designing a game from the very beginning, did you have to make the decision, we're going to make these tools available?
Yes.
You know, it's not something you could do late in development, or not easy to do late in development.
Can't.
So like
it's
from
like
the very,
it would double like the production time. And we actually, because with the Cities in Motion 2, we used to, for the first one, we used our in-house engine. And for the second one, we switched to Unity, and we're like, they will mod it and like this.
Right.
And with Unity, we noticed that it's a closed engine. They can't mod it because, of course, our in-house engine was like, here it is, do what you want. So from the get-go, we were like, this needs tools. We want sharing. We want creativity. This is like the core of the game. We have to support it.
Excellent. Right. Well, I'm going to ask for questions from the audience. There's a microphone, so you can. There it is. Wow, that was magic. I wonder if I can do that over now. So if anyone has any questions, then you can ask them now. So we have movement. Yes. Hello.
Hello. It has been a while since I last played City Skylines, but I ran into a situation where you were talking about metering out the systems with the milestones to not overwhelm players, but eventually I hit a sort of point where I had unlocked most of the systems in the game, but there were still way more milestones to go. So all I could really do was left with this sensation of copying another huge city block, smacking it down and putting down some more bus stops all around it. Are you thinking of ways of sort of extending the amount of systems that you unlock over time and adding some more longevity to it that way?
Well, yes and no. So kind of, because this is also down to like player type. Some people are just like, milestones, it's somewhere out there. But we want players to grow the city. So because you were clearly really intent on getting to the next milestone. So then you were like busy building new parts of the city. And from someone who approaches it with the slower strategy, eventually their citizens would age, and then the demand for housing would rise because the kids have grown up and they want to move out. And then they would end up also building new parts of the city. So that is kind of the direction the game guides you towards anyway. But having more systems, having more depth is definitely something that we want to look into.
Anything you've got on the drawing board in that direction? Anything you want to talk about?
Well, mass transit has the new transportation systems that they are unlocking with the milestones. But aside from that, I can't talk that much at this point.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have anyone? Aha.
Hi there.
Hi.
I really like the architecture, and especially in the game. And although each building feels individual, as a whole, as a theme, they all seem to fit together
Thank you.
within the city and the place it's in. I just wondered if you could just go through how the team decides what kind of architectural styles, themes, and how they
Yeah.
decide which buildings go in to each part.
Yeah, we have because we have several systems for this. So we have the building themes. We have like European buildings, and then the normal ones that are kind of North American inspired. Kind of this is the imaginary area that the city is set in, and then we have the leveling up of the buildings on top of that. So the higher the level of the housing, the fancier they look. So we try to have it so that the buildings can grow maybe upwards or get things like solar panels or something that shows that this is a high-level building. But mainly we have a super talented creative director who is really into concepting, and he found all of the best buildings for us. And the main thing was just to kind of put those on the different levels, but usually just having something and then adding things like just a regular house, that's like a level 1 or 2. Then you add a pool, and that's naturally like high level. But it's like mostly like the base game is set in North American-ish place. So that is the style we chose.
And is that for like user reasons? Obviously, as Europeans, we're very used to seeing American houses, so everybody can relate to that. Is that just makes it life a little bit easier?
Yeah, it kind of in the city building genre, it felt like the default that we don't have to like explain why this is here, which is a bit weird, but it was how players felt about the visual choices, and we wanted the visual style of the housing to be something that is kind of easily accepted, that it doesn't kind of bother you. You're not asking like, why is it looking like this, but rather you would get the information of high level or low level instantly.
Excellent. Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's one of the things, and anyone else can come up. I'm just going to. One of the things that is very important is legibility, making sure that people can look at the screen and they know what things are straight away. You don't want to distract them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So maybe you're going to tell me to just watch the previews, but you've said that you've implemented blimps as an effective means of transport rather than an evil villain lair. How?
I had exactly the same question when I first saw them. I was like, there's the blimps and there's also the elevated monorails. And I was like, I've never seen either of these things in real life except for advertising. Like
There's an
blimps.
elevated monorail in Wuppertal in Germany.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, yeah, the blimps. Well, first of all, they can't catch fire. So they are good.
It's the next expansion.
Yeah, someone will mod it. I
Unnatural
bet you.
disasters.
Yeah, and well, the most efficient thing about them is that they fly, and then we have the capacity so that it's not realistic. It's what feels good for the game, so that they can actually be usable. I have an awesome map where I have an island that has only residential housing, and all of the people go to work with a blimp.
It would be a better world.
Oh, does this answer your question?
I'm really looking forward to that.
Excellent, thanks.
Yeah, so I was wondering, the game has been out for a little while now, and obviously some people play with a very base level, and some people play with a lot of mods. When I play, sometimes my games have about 1,500 mods loaded into the game, so it's a hell of a lot. It's actually been modded to enable that many mods to load quickly, because obviously the base game is not ready. The way in which the game loads mods in, it kind of checks with Steam, and it takes a while to load in. My question is really, at what point do you think it's worth a game like this, which has been out for a while and is essentially a sandbox and is supported so much by mods, it can essentially just be continually supported by the community. So at what point do you get to where you think, right, well, now it's time for another game? Is it based mainly on that infrastructure limitations and you think like, okay, now we want to take it forward? And just a quick second question as well. When you think back to the last SimCity version, 2013, I think, in that game, one feature that was really awesome was the ability to build modular buildings. So you'd build like a university and then attach buildings onto it. Some mods have actually started to do that now. They've created like universities which have multiple buildings and so on and so on. Is that something you'd also like to see in the game? That's my two questions.
Well, we are limited by the system requirements because we always have to, of course, take care that the minimum ones are met. So we can't endlessly expand, just like you said, like there will be limitations. But right now, the main thing is that we still feel that we have things to add to this game. And while the mods are, I think we just passed 100,000 items on the Steam Workshop. So there are mods. There is something for everyone. But we do know that a large amount of the players, they do not use mods. We don't know if it's because they don't know how to or they don't want to use mods. And that should be a way to play the game too. So this is the main reason why we are now implementing stuff inspired by the mods, because we found things that we felt that these should really be in the game, and they really match with our ideas of how, for example, with the road building, we have in the free update, we have more like road building visual guidelines, and the snapping tools are a bit different, just to make sure that road building is more, it flows better, it feels better, you won't get frustrated, because I know that I have spent like tens of hours of my life trying a road and seeing that the zoning doesn't match. I'm like one too far and one too close. And if I am still doing it, it's like, well, guess how the new players are doing this? And so while modding is a big thing and we want to support it, we also have to think of the players who don't use mods. So yes, there are limitations. We have not yet hit any technical limitations that like prevent us from continuing on this game, and we want to still work on this one.
I had no idea there were mods to enable more mods. I've learned something. Mod inception.
Of course there are.
Do you have any other questions? We can talk about blimps more. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I actually do want to talk about blimps. That wasn't a joke. Like, I mean, I find the blimp thing. It feels almost like it looks like an alternate history game when I see them floating around. And I like that. I like that. You know, it is almost a fantastical element. You know, I mean, I know that they are real things, but introducing them as an actual form of mass transit does feel like
Yeah, we had in Cities in Motion 2, we had helicopters.
Yeah.
And for this expansion, we were like, maybe helicopters are something that is in the air, but like helicopters, we have done that. Let's do something new. And the blimps were just perfect because the helicopters are sometimes so small that you can't see them, and we had already done the emergency helicopters for natural disasters. So the blimps are like these awesome big things. And since we also, with the ferries and the blimps, because they are not on roads, so they have to follow some kind of a path, and we gave control of that to the player. So they actually like mark the paths, so that they can have this majestic blimp sailing above the city before it catches on fire when you have the mod on. So
you're already predicting that mod is going to be out in like 24 hours after release?
I need it.
With natural disasters, like, I mean, people wanted natural disasters. And again, that's something that was in the genre from the beginning, you know, that must have been fun, though. I mean, like, because it's like you spent a long time, like you say, snapping roads into position and building things. It must have been nice just to be like, you know what, let's introduce a little bit of ultra-violence.
It was, and I love all the YouTube videos about, like, huge floods that were done even before natural disasters. And now it's like, because that was satisfying, but since the vehicles didn't go with the water, it was like,
Right.
Now we get to actually do it. So now the water takes the vehicles with it, and that looks awesome, and it feels so satisfying to finally see it happening.
And I mean, this question was already asked, kind of, but I mean, do you see the future of the game? I mean, I'm assuming it's got a long-term future. I mean, partly because that's Paradox tend to do that. They support their games for a long time.
Yeah.
I always joke about Crusader Kings 2. I don't know if people here have played Crusader Kings 2. That it's been out for 6 years now, and it's basically Crusader Kings 3 now. They just haven't said that, but you know, they've put so much in it. And I do think, at what point do you start again? You know, when you build on top, and you know, you keep building. It's like building a new city. It's like, you know, it's really hard having the blank canvas again.
Yeah, and like we still have so many ideas of what to add. So as long as we seem to have like an active audience, the community is working on the game with us, I see no reason to stop. So like just because we spent like 2 years developing the game, and when it was released, our like internal wish list was like,
Right.
and we have done like this much. So there are ideas, and of course, if like technical limitations start to
It's creeping.
if that limit is hit, then we have to really think like how to work our way around it.
And
But-
I've spoken to you enough to know the answer to this question, but I'm interested in how you word it. Is like, is it because if a game's never finished, you release a game, but then it's like we're this far through the list of things we want to do. Is that satisfying though? I mean, like how long can that be exciting to do? Like,
yeah. Well, I do. I love it because usually when we announce a new expansion, I go and I read all of the comments on the forums and check Reddit and all of this. And usually the idea is that the community members have are really similar to what we have. And that makes me feel really satisfied. Like I have understood how people play this game, what they want, and they kind of play it like I do, which is of course lovely.
See, City Skylines isn't a game; it's a behavioural learning tool. Colossal Order just released something to
we
try
to understand you guys.
For sinister ends. That's what the blimps are for eventually. See a blimp with Colossal Order printed on the side. They know what you're thinking.
I think because we have advertisements on the side of the blimps, someone will mod that too.
Yes,
because we have like policies that you can have educational posters on those, and that boosts the education of the city. Naturally, if you look at the blimps all day long with things like brush your teeth, you will do it.
And propaganda.
Yeah.
There's going to be some sinister
that's
cities.
the other mod.
Actually, because they are beautiful cities. I mean, I think that's the aesthetic. Somebody asked about the kind of buildings you choose, and I think that one of the things that City Skylines does very well is it presents attractive cities. There's part of me that wants to make a kind of dystopian city. There's a little part of me. I'm sure that I can find the mods for that as well, but City 17, I'd kind of like to do that.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that most of the players played first as it is supposed to be played, like follow all of the instructions, and then they are like, I wonder what happens if I don't. And then they make the most awful city, and that's fun.
You say it takes a while, and this is a true story, which I think you can probably collaborate. The first time I played City Skylines, before it was released, there was a journalist in the room, and he sat down with it, and within an hour, he'd worked out how to connect his sewage pipes to his water pipes. He was literally making people eat their own. That's what he did. That's games journalism. And I'm still telling the story 2-3 years later.
And the beautiful thing is that you can do it. You just need
It's
more
a beautiful thing.
You just need more hospitals. That's fine. It is a way to play the game.
I think creating disasters for yourself is fun, though. I mean, it is in any kind of game. Like if you have a sandbox, you eventually want to. You want to. It's like building a sandcastle. Eventually, you want to knock it over, or you want to see the tide come in.
Absolutely.
I do. I don't know. I mean, some people don't. I think some people just want to make something incredibly.
But so many players want to try the kind of destroying what you have made. And maybe then continuing from the save. But
one of the things that I really like about natural disasters is that when you have a disaster, something terrible happens, your city's on fire, there's depopulation, and it actually does feel terrible. I mean, I joke about it, but I think it does a much better job than a lot of similar games do of saying this is a terrible thing, this is a disaster.
And you get kind of attached to the city, so that when something bad happens, it really, and kind of related to this, we actually, for the free update of mass transit, we added the emergency vehicles overtaking other vehicles. So they are now faster and they can change lanes. And we were thinking this just needs to be done. So because we promised it and it has to be there. And when we actually implemented it, seeing those go in the traffic, it makes it kind of enhances the emotion that you're describing.
yeah,
like there
yeah.
is something bad happening, and these guys are trying to get there as
And people
fast
are
as they
responding
can.
to it, and yeah.
So kind of the feeling really surprised me that it's so powerful when you saw it in the game.
I want emergency response blimps. I think that's
Oh,
a blimp
that's
dropping
wonderful.
water, like, you know, like, I mean, that's what I want. So get to
Why
work.
not? Why not?
I think that's all we have time for. Yeah. So thank you very much for coming to Res. Thanks for coming to this session. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to ask me any questions, or Karoliina, we'll be around for a little bit. We'll probably get snatched away at some point, but we'll be around for a little while. There's more from Paradox at 2 o'clock. We've got Steel Division Normandy 44, which is new RTS for Fusion Systems. So I'll be back here for that. And hopefully some of you will be as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.